what's up, everybody? Welcome to House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That man pointing at me in the hatch. He's in Waxahachie. He's hanging out with the parents. He's doing good work for mankind.
Yeah,
remember, Chad Hastings, the good Aggie.
Yes, remember, this is Cisco. We're out towards West Texas.
That's
hanging
right.
Hanging out at grandmother's old place and all that, but the folks do spend a lot of time out here too. So a little bit of a West Texas vibe with the crazy background you love so much.
You're in Waxahachie as far as I'm concerned.
What? That's true. I could just be. It's a state of mind, so I'll be in Waxahachie if you want.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said the hatch, because the hatch could be anywhere.
Hatch could lead you to anywhere. Yeah,
and it has. Comment.
Yeah. Hatch led me to you. So
it's like being born in Waco. Trust me, it'll lead you places. Like, comment, sometimes prison. Subscribe to the page, jump into that Specs chat it up, leave some super chats. We're talking Arch Manning today because coming out of the Steve Sarkisian press conference from a couple of days ago, his State of the Union, if you will, there were some things that we talked about in depth, and there were some things that kind of received cursory discussion. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me, Chad, and we were just kind of talking about, what do we want to talk about today? It's really interesting how Arch wasn't a dominant topic in, Arch Manning nationally right now is the story of the Texas Longhorns. I think even locally, it's the thing that everybody really wants to talk about, that the Arch Manning era has started. Even the Texas Sports Information Department loves posting some Arch photos now that they can, because
you really can now. You can lean in now.
It would have been taboo when 3 was the quarterback to be running, Arch photos, leading the team and stuff like that. But I think one of the real interesting Arch Manning conversation pieces that has not come to the surface locally yet is, what is Steve Sarkisian's plan for Arch Manning in 2025? And it sounds like a silly comment on the surface, but I really believe that one of the biggest conversation talking points that I have on Orange Bloods with people is, how much is Arch Manning involved in the run game in 2025? Because we know how they used him in the red zone, that you never would have known that Arch Manning was the number 1 passing quarterback in the country coming out of high school based on the way that they used him last year, situationally as a player, all the way up to a national semifinal game against Ohio State. Yet there was discussion at the end of the season, Chad, although never confirmed. I've never had a source deny it either. It is one of these things that people just aren't talking about. Did Arch Manning suffer a concussion in the bowl game against Ohio State? Is that why he didn't have his helmet? When we quiz people about it, there were no defiant no's. There were no defiant yeses. There was a whole lot of silence.
And does it help explain those key plays at the 1 and the 2? It was never really a part of the discussion afterwards. I wish we could go back in time, Catch, and have someone specifically ask Sark that question. Did you not go with Arch because of this? It never really happened that way. So it could have reframed that moment a little bit.
Well, when the red zone conversations come up on Monday, it did not turn into a discussion about Arch. And yet, man, that second and goal from the 1, that play continues to get brought up. Mm-hmm. It's a moment where they don't bring Arch Manning into the game. It is 1,000% fair. I had somebody this week ask me, what would have been a better play, Catch? Let me see your play from second and goal at the 1 that was better than the one that Sark ran. And you know what I told him? Take a knee.
You don't lose that yardage if you take a knee, Catch. That's a fair point.
Now you're 3rd and goal from the 2 instead of.
And you totally freak Ryan Day out. Guaranteed that would freak Ohio State out.
Now, a not tongue-in-cheek response to that could have been, well, you're Your goal line package, your short yardage package was Arch. So if it's second and goal at the 2, a play with Arch at quarterback based on how you developed him during the season, based on his usage rate and when and how he became a player for the Longhorns, I think that's a legitimate answer for what should they have done in that situation. Down by 7, it's 21-14. You're in the final minutes of the game. You punch this in. It's a 0-0 game pending the extra point, and then we see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That it never got to that because of what transpires after the loss of down, and it just, it got away from Texas, and suddenly a tie ball game is a 14-point ball game. I'm curious what everybody in the Specs chat thinks about this, because I don't know what the magic formula is with Arch. I, though, instinctively am hesitant at using him like David Ash, which is what I thought they did last year. The Arch Manning package last year was essentially the David Ash package in 2011. In 2012, David Ash is the full-time starting quarterback. And I think that you could make a case, had they treated David Ash with more care and not, hey, he's a big old strong kid that can help us in the running game in a special kind of way, maybe David Ash finishes his career. But in deciding that David Ash needed to be some sort of Tim Tebow reincarnate, the Texas version of that at the quarterback position, they killed David Ash's career. They just did. Like, maybe he never was going to have a career, but man, how many times did we see David Ash putting his head down, trying to get an extra yard as a runner, and like paying the ultimate price for it? And it's hard for me to think about that with Arch, because I feel like if he did suffer a concussion in the bowl game, Chad, man, to me, one of the goals of next season is you got to get through the whole season without Arch suffering a concussion. Don't let something pop up, and then then we go back and ask, hey, what happened in the bowl game?
Yeah, and then that moment becomes a Xavier-worthy broken hand press conference, where then Sark would admit it way into the future, and you go, wait, what did he just say? He had a concussion, because just like this chatter, just like Hunter, I'm with you, Hunter. How he never got asked about that at the time will never make sense to me. We've talked about that plenty. We don't need to go back over it. But yes, I think we were both shocked, just like you guys, that didn't get asked. But to your point, Catch, yes, that cannot come up. It can't come up. It can't happen. And in fact, I get uncomfortable when you say the names Arch Manning and David Ash too close together. Like, I need lots of words between those two names, because we do not need to think about Ash during this Arch Manning era.
I think Texas fans want Texas next season on offense to use Arch Manning like Texas wanted to use David Ash in 2012. There are people that think Arch Manning is going to rush for 600 yards next year.
See, I don't think that can be the case. Here's what I think. I think, Catch, it's like when you use a really fancy tool to do a really simple job. That's what Arch was in the run game packages. But this year's, it's the blossoming of it. Like, Catch, imagine if when Tim Tebow got ready for year number 2, he could throw the ball like Arch Manning. That, I think, is what we're about to watch here, because you don't need to make that dude a battering ram. You don't need to make that dude. And we talked about it during the season, the notion that you know how to fix the run game, Arch. You know what the problem is with the run game? Just use Arch.
That can't ever be the answer. That has to stop popping into people's brains.
Like, it can't. It cannot. It needs to be there's a lot of elements here. There's spring portal, and do you get a running back there? And it's your running backs that are trying to get healthy. But just 16 ducking his head, that cannot be your plan as a run game. And Catch, I would at least, if I'm a fan to Texas, I'm at least going to trust that Sark would not think that's the plan. I think he'd laugh at that idea. If a fan said, so is your goal to have Arch rush for 650 yards next year? I think Sark would politely sign that autograph and get out of that room because he's not thinking like that. I can't imagine.
What is the answer? I'm telling you, it's a rhetorical question at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, God, maybe they don't know. Like, what are they doing in the red zone? What are they doing? And when they get inside the 20, I don't know who Texas is going to be in 2025.
Yeah. But the beauty of it, Catch, is I remember when Bill Belichick went through, who was it that Belichick had? Was it Vic? Who was it that he had when he'd get into the red zone? And he'd put
Cam Newton for a minute and they nearly killed him.
Maybe Cam or whatever, but he still had Tom Brady. And I would always watch those plays and think, wait a second, you're taking Tom Brady off the field for this play? I don't care what your play is. On the field, that's weird. Here's the comfort for a Texas fan this year is that, in theory, Arch Manning's on the field. And see, that would have been the beauty, Catch. My answer to the question of what do you run on second down from the 1 yard line, if 16's healthy, his presence is part of that play. The threat of him is that play. The run, pass, option is that play. That's what you got to hope gets added to this red zone discussion, that will help Sark's red zone issues just go away, blossom, however you want to say it. Because now you know you got Arch on all those plays. You don't have to think about looking over shoulders and all that.
Again, this is a fascinating conversation. And
yeah,
and Chris Bennett, look, and this is at the crux of, and I'll go to the super chat in a second.
Okay.
But, Chris says 2012 Ash had pretty good numbers. He did, Chris. And I think, but it came at a cost. Eventually, in order for David Ash to make it through his Texas career, they had to recalibrate who they thought he was. And they never could do that. And to the coaching staffs, this Charlie got David Ash at the end, but this was a Mac thing for a while. They never quite figured it out. I just know this. Arch Manning didn't pick Texas and Steve Sarkisian to suffer concussions. He just didn't. They did not send him to Texas to rush for 600 yards in a season. And I don't think that family. Now, Arch might be like, I'll do whatever you want me to. But there got to be adults in the room who just make smarter decisions about long-term, a little bit like Quinn. Like the one of the conversations around Quinn needed to be, how do we keep him on the field for 12 games? Because it never happened. And in the end, maybe there was just no way that was ever going to happen. But, I think that one of the answers that Texas has to, one of the questions that Texas has to be asking themselves is, we cannot afford to not have Arch in a game next season. That what we don't want to do is find ourselves in a position like we did a year ago where we've got to get through 2 or 3 or 4 games with Trey Owens like we needed to get through games with Arch Manning because we couldn't keep Arch on the field. Texas has got to be able to run the football well enough next year that the quarterback picking up yards with his feet on 3rd and 7 is not the same thing as like running quarterback keepers on 1st and 5. Yeah. So to me, Arch in the running game needs to be one of these things where you take advantage of it 4 or 5 times a game, almost ad lib, right? That's what happens in the NFL. Really, quarterback run yards come from there's nothing open. These guys are moving the pocket. They scramble, they run out of bounds, they're not taking hits. Texas got to find a way to get maybe 50 yards a game from Arch Manning, but not by running Arch with power football. I just think that there got to be a number of ways to figure out how to get through this season and get the most out of Arch as possible. And those are the things I think they're having a conversation about behind the scenes. It's fascinating to me that nobody asked a question about it on Monday.
Yeah,
it's
no,
Arch Manning.
It's crazy. Brian, this is a wild start to a super chat. $4.99. You have to run him some to keep D honest. Catch, let's stop right there. Before we get to that comma, do you agree with the first part of this super chat?
No, man, you got to be enough on. You get to be. How about Texas has to be so good on offense that I know this. The best offense that Steve Sarkisian has ever had was 2020 Alabama. And like they weren't trying to get their quarterback killed. They were letting that dude just sling the football.
Yeah, that's a little weird to me, Brian. But not too much. He will still scramble when needed, sure. Use his athletic ability, but not too much. Brian, I could understand that theory, but the idea
We're
of
with you on 75% of that.
Yeah, I'm with you on a lot of it. That start is a bit jarring.
Because Texas cannot go into this season thinking the key to their offense being successful, because they didn't think that a year ago.
No.
And Sark didn't go into Sark went into last season thinking they were going to average almost between 40 and 50 points a game. And at no point going into the season did he ever say or think out loud, I think we're going to average and score a lot of points. But, man, if Quinn can't keep defenses honest with his legs, we are screwed.
Yeah, that is not it. And you know, another super chat came in from Chris, $10. Speaking of the red zone answers, any news on luring White into the portal or any running back for that matter? This may be a more important question, Chris, for that run game. He's talking about, is it Jaheim White?
Yeah.
Is that, do I have that name right? Yeah. That was at West Virginia, rumored to be maybe thinking about the portal. We're a little more than a month away from portal time. Any updates on White catch at this point?
No, and there's not going to be. The portal doesn't open up for a while.
Yeah.
I think that kid, and I don't think anybody involved wants that story to be talked about right now, because if you're Texas, it would indicate tampering.
Right.
The portal is closed. There should not be a story right now where the white kid from West Virginia is openly discussing transferring to Texas.
Right.
Now, the background to that is he gave some consideration. White was pretty open about the fact that he was pursued in the portal. He had options in the portal. I think he may have even mentioned that he had more lucrative options in the portal. But Chad Scott was a big part of his decision-making to stay at West Virginia, that he personally had a loyalty to his position coach that he just didn't want to leave. And then his position coach left. And the very thing that kept White, in White's words, at West Virginia is no longer there. It just doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that considerations are being made. Every time I send a note about this kid in particular to any of my sources, there's almost a universal response, Chad. Smiling face emoji. Just, that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to say, I get it. My sources know, unless they come out and say, don't quote me. They know if I ask them a question and they send me back an answer and it's a good answer, if they don't tell me, hey, this is between us, don't report it, they know, like, there's a good chance I'll quote them. Like, I'm a reporter. That's what I do.
Right.
Tell me it's off the record if it's off the record. And I will respect that. But when all you do when I ask a question is use a smiley face emoji, there's not a whole lot I can do with that.
No. Yeah, it's true.
You know, that's not a quote.
Yeah.
And I almost would embarrass myself if I reached out to a source this week and asked specifically about this. And the smiling, the response I got was, and the thing is, like, not all the smiley faces match up. The smiley faces in my phone don't always match the orange blood smiley faces. So could it even be a direct quote?
Right. Well, and also in that world, I think somebody brought up the point. Alan says White shut it down real quick with his socials. Got to wait until the portal opens. I would imagine specifically, Catch, that if your head coach and your running backs coach end up at a spot and you're even thinking about the portal, for everybody's benefit, you've got to keep things tight. You got to keep everything as quiet as you can until April 15th.
Well, and look, man, part of this process is you're going to have to let White go through the spring. He's got to live what it means to have a new running backs coach. So when it's over with, I think there's an absolute expectation that kid's going to be on the Texas Longhorns next season, but there's still a process. It's like getting on base. It's like Ricky Henderson standing on first base. You think he's going to make it to third, but still got to let him do it. And eventually Ricky will make it to third, but we're going to see a few pitch overs. They're going to try to keep him on first.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a hit and run and like he's got to jog back to first, but eventually Ricky's running. And then eventually Ricky will make it to third. Like that's what Ricky did. So I kind of feel like it's a little bit like Ricky Henderson standing on first base. We know where this thing's likely headed, but there's a process involved. And before Ricky can get to third, Ricky's got to get to second. And the pitcher's got to try to keep him there. And I think that's kind of where West Virginia is. They will have a chance with a new head coach and a new running backs coach to save that situation. But I think there is an anticipation that like can't make a kid stop loving what a kid loves. And he loves Chad Scott. And Chad Scott's at Texas. And oh, by the way, Texas can probably offer more NIL money. There's a real need at running back at exactly that position. You'll never be able to convince me that one of the reasons why Chad Scott made for a really good running back hire was that the possibility of taking one of his pupils also existed. Like there are worse things in life that, you know, remember when Tashard Choice came to Texas, Jahmyr Gibbs was in the portal. If Texas didn't have Bijan Robinson at the time, I think there's a real good chance Tashard Choice would have transferred to Texas. It would have made all the sense in the world. It just so happened that when Tashard Choice came to Texas, they had Bijan and Roshan coming back. And Jahmyr Gibbs didn't need or want any of that. But, you know, we are going to see coaches moving forward because of the portal. The right assistant coach was going to look a lot more attractive if he comes with somebody, if he can bring somebody. And so stay tuned.
Thank y'all for those super chats. We've cleaned off the super chats. We'll get to some more chats. You want to throw us a super chat? It'll go right to the top of the list. Also, we'll thank some of our great partners around here. Y'all know I love me some sinus and snoring specialists. Let me talk about them a little bit. Specifically, I'm going to talk about my wife. I'm so glad I went to sinus and snoring specialists, but my God, am I glad my wife went to sinus and snoring specialist because she had severe sleep apnea, got that taken care of. And right now she's sleeping great. She's been losing weight. She's been eating better. She's really happy right now. And I love that for her. It's fantastic. She's got a job that requires her to get up early in the morning. So a good night's sleep is critical. I know a lot of you are probably like that. Maybe you're a night shift person. Maybe you're split shift. Maybe there's a key spot in the day where a nap is critical to what you need to be able to do. Sinus and snoring specialists make sure you are at your best. Get rid of those allergies you've always dealt with. Get rid of those sinus infections that have been driving you crazy. Figure out what's actually going on, and then they will curtail a plan that's specific to you. It won't be some cookie cutter thing that they might give to everybody else at other places. Sinus and snoring specialists, they are the best. They've been doing this a long, long time. They'll help you. SinusSnoringENT.com or 601-0303. Remember, you can also securely text that number if you're more comfortable there. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. We hope you're enjoying some good spring weather wherever you are today. Again, super chats will go to the top of the list. I don't see one right now, but I did like these couple chats. This one on Arch. Hunter says he may scramble, but they won't design runs for Arch. Sark has been quite emphatic. His offense doesn't do that. Hunter, I like that point. That's a yes. A Steve Sarkisian offense catch. When you say those words, I do not think scrambling quarterback, running quarterback. It's not what I think of.
No, I agree. And you know, one of the elephants in the room is that this offensive line. Last year's offensive line, I think now that the season's over and the way that it ended, we saw Ohio State control the line of scrimmage. Ohio State was better defensively up front than Texas was on offense to block them. That was the case against Georgia. So Texas fans struggle with the notion. Here are all of the things that I think are true at the same time, Chad. The Texas offensive line was the best offensive line that Texas has had since the 2006 season, which was when 3 of those offensive starting linemen from the national championship team, along with Tony Hills, who ends up being an NFL player, taking over at left tackle. You had 4 NFL guys on that offensive line starting, and they were really good. So it was really, really good. And like the grading that Alex Dunlap did of that team reflected that. The scores were the best that he's ever seen from a Texas offensive line over the course of a season. All of them. But they weren't such a good offensive line that they were better than the best teams on the Texas schedule. And that is hard, I think, to process a little bit. Well, what the hell do we do if the best offensive line that we've had for 18 seasons isn't good enough ultimately against the best teams on the schedule? 3, the 2025 offensive line is not going to be as good as the 2024 offensive line. What that does to the Texas offense, I don't know. I don't know. You know, what Hunter is saying is right. But what if Texas struggles to run the ball? What if they struggle in the red zone? I mean, we've seen that he may scramble, but they won't design runs for Arch, except they have designed runs for Arch. They have those in the playbook now. They design run plays for Arch that they did not have for Quinn. So the question is, when pushed into a corner, do you play that hand? Do you rob Peter to pay Paul and you focus on, man, what we're worried about right now is it's 3rd and 5 and we need 5 yards. That is in the weeds planning. Whereas from 30,000 feet up, you're like, well, you know what? We can't keep risking Arch. If it means we don't get 3rd and 5 and punt, well, that's why we have good defenses. So, you know, it's tricky because you're right. Hunter was right. But is Hunter's wrong to say that the Sark offense might not be designed like that, but we cannot say that he won't design run plays for Arch because they have. And yes. I would contend using those last season in any capacity, you can still, well, he wasn't playing and we were trying to get him on the field. Okay. How'd you use him? Did you let him throw the ball much when you played him? Did you let him throw the ball at all?
No, but there's an argument for you couldn't.
I guess. I mean, there is. I don't know that it's a winning argument, but these are all conversations as they move into next season that I don't think obvious answers exist. I feel like I have an ironclad, hey, man, an occasional Arch run for sure, right? Mm-hmm. But don't even use him like Josh Allen. You can't. Like, there's one of those guys.
Right. Well, here, at the risk of everybody getting to see the top of your head, I'm going to put up this chat from Chris. Catch, Chad. We can't help, but we want to see our quarterback run because VY 4th and goal lives in our dreams.
I get that. I get that.
Okay, but Chris, there's a key to that moment. Go back to the play. 4th and goal and Vince scores. What happened wasn't the play call. That's not the play they called. They called a play. There was a moment where Vince assessed the situation and then realized, oh, yeah, I'm gone. I don't know that it's fair to say that was the play. Vince Young bailed Greg Davis out of a lot of situations. And if Arch Manning, here's the limb. If Arch Manning proves himself to be the type of quarterback that can do the things when a play breaks down that Vince Young did at Texas, then you're damn right there'll be those moments. But you need to call a play on the front side. That would be my only argument. Because Vince did a lot on 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 10 that saved Texas, but what he did wasn't what was called. I think
that's a lot of time. Vince was also not a guy like as big as Vince was. Vince didn't always take a lot of big hits.
No.
Vince ran faster than the other team. Vince knew when to get out of bounds.
Yeah, he did.
Because
he could get from the hash to that out of bounds in a step and a half, apparently.
He frustratingly beat teams to the sidelines all the time.
It was silly.
And if you couldn't catch him, he would just run straight into the end zone. But, like, we didn't always see. I know this. Whenever I watch Vince Young highlight tapes from days gone by, there are not a lot of vicious Vince Young shots.
No. You know who he reminds me of, Catch, in terms of getting hit? You and I loved watching this guy, too. When I think of when Walter Payton but Tony Dorsett, both of those guys, as their career developed, could find ways, especially Tony D. Tony D would get to the sideline and I'd be like, man, he really figured that out. He got the yards and he knew right when to step out of bounds. And you weren't feeling like, as opposed
Franco Harris was famous for it. They labeled Franco Harris soft because he was like, I'm getting out of bounds and not taking the hit. Franco Harris was a man ahead of his time.
He was. Franco was smart is what he was.
Franco was like, do you know how you make it to play in 4 Super Bowls and win them?
Catch, I really do think I'm going to keep going back to this Tebow analogy because I think that's what we're about to watch. It's a different version of it, though. I think both the guys are magical in their own way in terms of the crowd and the attention they're going to get. But I think what we're about to see is, you remember when you first saw Tim Tebow in a opened up passing game, right? And what you realized in that moment was, oh, that's why Urban used him as the running quarterback. That's why. Because once you saw Tim Tebow in that amazingly slow delivery and clunky passing ability, you went, oh, that's why he was the run guy. But I think you're going to see the opposite with Arch Manning. We've already seen a little taste of it. You're going to see Arch in this passing attack, and I think the worries will go away for Texas fans. They're going to realize Sark's the coach. We know what his offenses do, and look at that dude throw. And once all that comes together, the notion of like Arch Manning ducking his head on, 3rd and 7, it's going to go away. They won't have to do it. That's my opinion. We'll see. I just don't think that's going to be.
Can I ask a question for you?
Sure.
How many yards rushing do you think Arch finishes with next season? What's a good number?
I mean, 350, 4? What if it ends up in that
350 divided by, let's do 12 games first, or 13 games. Let's just regular season.
Okay.
That's 27 yards a game.
Okay.
Yeah, and that includes sacks.
Okay, right. The sack yards will come off, and then sometimes it'll be a little bit more. Maybe sometimes it'll be a little less. That feels about right to me.
You're not asking for too much.
No, I'm not asking for crazy. What I'm asking for are those, and again, I'll mention 2 of the greats here, but I'm mentioning those Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers moments where they get out of bounds, step right out of bounds at like 10 yards on a
Mahomes does this all the time. Like
Mahomes. Oh yeah. Mahomes. Just give me a little
you'll go into a prize picks on a Sunday and it's like Patrick Mahomes and it'll be like 12 and a half yards rushing. And he's either going to have, and they don't put sacks on the rushing numbers in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true. They figured that one out.
So it's not quite the same as college. And it's funny because Mahomes over the course of the game will have no scrambles or have 6. So it's like you'll get to games where it's like Mahomes had 50 yards and then you'll go 3 games in a row where he had 11 yards combined. And I think, for me, if you're averaging a little more than 25 yards a game rushing, so you got him at 350 and 13, which might be 450 to 500 in 3 or 4 playoff games.
Allen likes more of a 400-yard. I can understand that.
But then you start getting it, like we go 500 yards and divide that by 13. Now you're almost at 40 yards a game. Now you're using your quarterback. He's a running quarterback.
Right. And see the number we'll look for too, Catch, the other simple math for the regular season, just go 12 games. 50 yards a game gets you to 600. So that's when
that's a lot, man. That's a lot.
That's when you'd be up there. No, I'm just looking for, you're looking for like one.
I feel like we were just there. We were just on the sweet spot.
Yeah, no, you're there. Again, you're right. That 25, that feels like kind of that right now. Give me 1 or 2 first down scrambles, maybe not even per game. But
you know what I don't want? I don't want any against UTSA or Lafayette or
no.
Like this is where they've got to be really. Hey, it is almost like they got to give Steve Sarkisian like 10 bullets, and it's like, hey man, fire these arch run bullets anytime you want to, but when they run out, you don't get to use any more during the season.
Yeah. And again, it's all about the design part of it. And we saw it, Catch, man. I'm telling you, once this development is fully opened up, I think we're going to watch just a wild, cool thing for Texas fans, because we saw it start to happen in those. What did he get? 3 starts last year? Was it 3 or 2? He got 2, right? Mississippi State and ULM. But by the end of that second game, I could see some things developing that we hadn't seen at the beginning of the first game. Now Sark is free. Sark was trapped a little bit by his situation. Why can't you put Arch in and really have a passing attack? Well, because then somebody will see the passing attack and go, ooh, quick question. Is that better than the guy that started the game? Now you don't have to deal with all that. That's been put away. This is 2025, man. This is full blast 100%. And Catch, remember my overall theme for this coming football season. If something goes wrong with Arch, guess who fans are going to blame? Sark. And I think he knows that deep down. Sark is the looming villain here, not Arch Manning. The fans are behind Arch until he gives them a reason not to be. So it's up to Sark to open this thing up, be aggressive with it, and I don't think that's going to ring in his ear as we're going to run Arch Manning a lot. It's just not going to happen. 850. Come on, man. 850. 850. Let me tell you what, Catch. Here's the indicator.
Do you know what that would mean, though? Arch played every game, I think, to get to 850. He played 17 games.
Here's what else it means, Catch. Texas is winning games by 40 points a game. They
Is
are.
that what that means?
They're smashing the opponent. If Arch Manning ends up with 850 yards rushing in a Steve Sarkisian offense, Steve Sarkisian is not going to let his quarterback have like a clunky, broken bottle 850. That's going to be a Purdy 850. Texas is going to be putting 55 a game on people if he has 850 yards rushing.
I definitely want this question asked of Sark at some point in the spring. So if you're watching,
like a goal, like a yard goal.
Yeah, I want the question asked to him. It's not a specific. It's not so like Sark will get the question.
Yeah, right.
Art, I'm guessing you have in your mind a number, a rushing yard number or a carry number that over the course of the season you feel like that's the sweet spot and not the danger zone. Do you feel like there's a sweet spot with Arch that you want to be able to ask of him, that you want to be able to bake into the 35, 40 yards rushing on positive yards? We won't even include the sacks, but we want 2 first down scrambles a game. We're kind of hoping for like to have that in our offense. Yeah. So from not including net negative yards, just positive yards, 25 a game. We're comfortable with that. Maybe some weeks there's more. There's got to be weeks where we don't ask for any. Like, I'm curious, is that the answer? Is it, I don't want to ask Arch, you know what I mean? I want to hear Sark answer that question? And I don't know how he answers it. So what's a good question?
Matt, arch for the Doak Walker. That made me smile. That is fantastic. And Esrone wants the triple option. Okay, so Catch, I would love that question too.
That's where we are now, Chad. We've reached the point.
Triple option. Yep. Wishbone. Here
It's
it comes.
like whenever we would talk about Quinn, and by the end of the show, people would be like, he's the responsible for the national debt. Inflation is Quinn's fault. And it's like,
oh my God, it is so good. But to your point,
Catch, me want to finish the show sometimes and go home, but I'm already home.
Hey, Catch, I want that question asked too, and I would love for Sark's answer to be, I have no number in my head. None. You know how much I think about my quarterback in rush yards? 0. That's the number in my head. I don't think about it. And number of carries in a game.
That would be a lie, wouldn't it? Like, we know that can't be the answer.
But carries in a game? Like, does he really go in thinking about that? And I get my answer.
I absolutely think they do.
My answer would be, how many times do I want him to carry the ball? Like, technically, if he scrambles, that counts.
And I want that question asked immediately after, did he suffer a concussion at the end of last season?
Yeah, right. Now that'll get fun. If we get those questions finally asked, that would be that would be excellent.
Can you imagine your job is to go to a press conference to cover the University of Texas when Arch Manning is a quarterback, and the last 2 press conferences that have taken place have not included really like a hardcore Arch question?
Yeah. Well, but again, Catch, maybe here's the other hope. There's another whole group of people, that media group. They have now been unlocked for 2025. There was a trap.
No, they haven't.
There was a trap inherent in 2024, and they could have asked any question they want. And I agree with you. We talked about it. We wanted the questions to be asked, but by the end of the year, we would keep asking and getting the same type of response from that room. And it was, we know who he is and we know what he'll say. We're not even going there. And it's like, okay, if that's how you want to do it, maybe they'll feel a little different in 2025 because they don't have to look over their shoulder.
No, man. There are too many dudes in that Texas Longhorns media circle that just don't do their jobs well.
I mean,
I employ Anwar Richardson to be the representative of Orange Bloods. Every time Anwar comes to a press conference, everybody knows when the press conference is over what questions that Anwar asks. They're always important. They're always a talking point.
Mm-hmm.
There are dudes that go an entire season in that media group that don't ask a good question all season long. And they think they are. Dude, if we're not talking about you ever, if none of your questions are ever so interesting that they never, ever get discussed, you're not asking good questions.
Yeah. And
like, at least with Terry, he makes his questions interesting.
You remember it. It's memorable.
Man,
and it makes me want.
There are dudes that have been there for years that I'm like, I don't remember that guy asking a goddamn thing since he's been on the beat.
This is going to be a wild. This will be an interesting, again, line of questioning if it occurs. Because I'm with you. I'd love to hear Sark talk about.
And we know, like, who are the good question askers amongst the media at Texas? Anwar, Bowles, Brian Davis. Because, I mean, Brian went right at it the other day. In fact, there was a moment where it was like, oh, well, Anwar doesn't have to ask the question that he kind of reworded and asked because Brian kind of hit on that. Thankfully, Anwar followed that up with like a delicately asked question about that. Who else do we give credit for really asking good questions consistently? Take Bowles, Davis, Anwar out. Who's next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
Yeah. I mean, generally, Bob Ballou put some good questions out.
But Bob doesn't show up every week.
Okay, I got what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, Bob is like the Charles Jefferson of like the high school, Ridgemont High. He flies in on game days sometimes, and like when he comes in with a high heater. But sometimes Bob will just sit and watch and take notes. Like he's not. I wish Bob got frisky every week, but you're right. Bob's a good one.
I'll ask about a guy we've both worked with. What about Chip? What about Chip's questions in 25? Because I've always said I felt like he's not afraid to ask any question.
He's not, but Chip sometimes shows up and asks questions that only he cares about.
Okay.
Like, I sometimes think that Chip's asking about his sources. Why the fuck are you asking about that guy? Are you talking to his dad or something? Like, why did you even ask about that guy?
Okay.
It's like, did we really need to ask about, I don't know. Sometimes Chip's working on Chip stuff and he does not, which is weird because sometimes Chip will also like report shit and then not ask questions about the stuff that he reports. Sometimes it's weird. Like, he reported a couple seasons ago that Jake Majors was going to be out like indefinitely and then never asked a Jake Majors injury question. And then Jake Majors came back and played right away. And it was like, well, why didn't you ask about Jake Majors? Just weird. You're the only one reporting that. It feels like, so I don't know. Chip does a good job. I would actually put Chip, because Chip is fearless at times.
Right.
I'll put him in that group of three.
Yeah, I'd put him in there too. What about what about on the younger side? What about like Joe Cook?
No, Joe's a good reporter. I think Joe does good. I think all of those guys do good work.
Yeah.
I don't think they come to press conferences and ask good questions. What did Joe ask about on Monday?
There is a off the top of my head, I'm not sure if he was he the injury question? I can't remember.
Might have been.
So
that was a good question, but like, I don't think Joe does good work. Like I said, I think everybody in that room does good work. That's not the same thing though as saying they come to the press conferences with like, hey, when I covered press conferences, like, I did not ask questions. Chad's been to press conferences with me. When I asked questions, they weren't wasted questions.
Yeah. So
I never felt like in any given press conference, I had to ask a question. But when my hand went up to ask a question, it was always a good question. And more times than not, Mac didn't appreciate it. Somebody has to ask questions like those sometimes.
So we're talking about Arch Manning today. Let's bring it back to Arch. So as we get into spring ball and all that, like,
do I need to start going back to press conferences?
I don't. That's a separate discussion. What I'm asking you,
because we do shows like right after. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
no, yeah, we have the show kind of right in that spot. That's what it turned into to me years ago. I would go to some press conferences, and then all of a sudden the show was during the press conference. But in terms of that group, do you think we're going to see them act a little differently, act the same, how they deal with Sark? I mean, there's this thing that hangs over 2025 and 2026 if Arch stays for 2 years. Like, I don't know. Is it going to be like they're careful to ask Arch questions, or they don't want to ask too many Arch questions?
We're going to see more national guys in 2025 on the scene.
Yeah, that's true too.
So
because of the special nature of
the Bruce Feldmans of the world to be at a Monday press conference with Arch Manning as a starting quarterback more often than not. A guy like Max Olson's isn't always, Max does a good job. And so, like, if the Athletic decides we got to have somebody on the Arch beat all season long, and like that means being like, there will be, I think, a more national presence than we've seen the last few years just because of Arch. So, but I don't know. Like, I feel, it's frustrating. I don't want to nag the press corps. It's not like I don't get off on that. That's not like a kink of mine. It's like, what is Jeff into when he watches porn? Oh, he watches reporters ask good questions. It's not my thing. I promise.
That is a weird. Yeah, that's a weird.
That would be a weird kink.
That's a weird kind of porn.
Boy, it's like, wait a minute. Is that Chip Brown?
Come on, man.
Oh, no, it was Anwar. Oh. Not too far away from other kinks.
There's a joke about Kirk Bowles and Cougars, and anyway, sorry. Go ahead. My bad. I'm sorry, Kirk. That's
Kirk, I do not apologize. We mixed in a Chip and an Anwar. You had to be next.
That's on me. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Kirk.
grandpa porn.
My
Who
bad.
doesn't have that bookmarked somewhere?
That's my bad. That is my bad. Oh Lord. All
I
right.
want to apologize to everybody in the chat right now that, like, sometimes you say things out loud and you say it because you want to. You don't want that thought to be only in your head. Chad and I did that off the cuff. We didn't mean to plant those seeds.
Yeah, we did not. Nope, that did not mean to happen. In fact, we're gonna try
I'm gonna have somebody send me a message in 3 days, like, "Damn you, Catch!
All right, let's cleanse.
Last 3 days have gone by, and I can't get Kirk and porn out of my brain."
We're gonna cleanse your brain. We're gonna cleanse your brain with Lisa and Specs and a bunch of bottles of goodness. Let's get some Specs. It'll also help with the memory loss of what just happened. Let's go.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
All right.
Chris.
Dude,
Chris, I like this game.
I'm telling you that there's certain things that'll happen. And that interview that she did with Sark, it lit so many Texas fans up. Like, I don't even know what's going on today, but can I just say Kay Adams' name out loud? It'll make me happy.
Kay has an effect on men that is very organic. You can't fake it, right? Like, so you just got to have, it's a natural thing.
It is. It's great.
Chris, I'm not judging you.
Chris Bennett would like for Kay to be one of those national folks you're talking about.
She's
coming
getting
in
there.
Arch.
Getting there.
Yeah, it'll happen. It will happen. That's good, Mark. I like that. We'll just throw one in, not multiple, but just told Paul Revere the British were coming. Well done.
I believe that was the title of the. Never mind.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go back. Don't go backwards. It's like the Arch thing. Don't go back. You go forward into 2025. We do have buy or sell coming up here in just a second. Catch, before we do that, first off, let me shout out Hijack real quick because I know you love your Hijack Poker. Hijackpoker.com. Put it on any device you want. Get to that online poker. This is for everybody in the state of Texas. You can play. You might end up playing against Jeff Ketchum. You never know. You can deposit and cash out at any of those 6 Texas Card House locations. There are also other easy, convenient ways to deposit. So check them out. Hijackpoker.com. All right, Catch. Anything else we need to hit before we get to buy or sell?
No, I actually did it for a Wednesday, middle of the week show.
Yeah,
I liked it. Good football conversation. We don't need to beat that donkey to death. It's dead.
Do you want to go? You're good. We don't.
I'm
need
ready
to
for buy or sell.
Okay, let's do it. You want to go first or second?
I'm going to go second.
All righty. Let's start here. Buy or sell, number one, Catch. Spring portal, a little over a month away. You think Texas will get at least 2 wide receivers, a running back, and an offensive lineman?
So I don't think they're going to take 2 wide receivers.
Okay.
I'd be shocked if they didn't take one.
So you like one of each, though? You like one of each of those 3?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think, God, it wouldn't shock me if there were 2 offensive linemen, and it wouldn't shock me if there were none. Texas with offensive linemen in the portal, they've never taken any. But
never.
Not under Steve Sarkisian. I mean, Herman took them all the time, right? There was Parker Braun, there was Calvin Anderson. There was almost like an annual offensive lineman that they would take in the portal. But under Sarkisian, since Kyle Flood's been the offensive line coach, they've not taken an offensive lineman in the portal, even when the needs to do so were critical.
Okay. Interesting. I had not realized that. All right, Catch, let's stay with college football. Buy or sell, number 2. Bruce Feldman put out a top 25 list of current coaches in college football. Sark is 4th behind the 3 that have a title. You agree?
Well, so I wouldn't rank Dabo ahead of Sark right now.
Okay.
I feel like if you were Texas, you wouldn't trade Sark for Dabo. And I think if you were at Clemson, I think you would trade Dabo for Sark if you could. I think if you were Clemson and you were, honestly, if you were smart and you asked yourself, have we already got the best 10 years of Dabo? Is Sark's best 10 years up front of, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think one guy's done it and is proven, but I don't know he's ever going to get there again. And I think we're seeing the best of Sark right now. So I would not, if Dabo was in front of Sark, I would not put Dabo in front of Sark. Hell, if for no other reason than Sark is proven to be much more apt to running a successful program in 2024, 2025 in these modern times. This year, we're like, hey, Dabo signed a portal guy. That is very, like, condescending. So Don't tell me that the number 3 coach in the country is a guy that we're openly mocking and condescending because he's been closed-minded for much of the last few seasons.
Interesting discussion. We'll get into that tonight on The Outsiders at 8:30 if you want to jump in and join us for that. Catch buy or sell number 3, Tiger Woods, ruptured an Achilles. He's out again. We have seen him play 4 rounds at a major for the last time.
So, you know, like, he could be in his 60s and play the Masters. But I think competitive, like, so we will see, 4 rounds at a major.
4 rounds. You're right. Not just show up and get the Thursday, Friday and miss the cut.
I'll still say sell because we were watching guys like Tom Watson do it in their late 50s. Tiger's not a quitter. Now, you know, there are just levels to this. But have we seen the last of Tiger? Now, here's the thing. No, I'm going to say we've not seen the last of Tiger play 4 rounds in a major. We'll see it again. But we're probably going to get that Tiger that for 2 rounds is one thing. And then those final 36 holes, it's like, oh, man, Father Time really is undefeated.
Yeah. But a lot of times that Tiger will just leave the course. Like, there's something that will cause him to have to leave. That's what I'm hoping we don't see. I still say we've got at least one more 4 rounds, but, like, it's going to be a while. I hope you're right, man. A little piece of my sports fan heart breaks every time I see a story on him, and I just, man, it's rough. So I hope Tiger gets better soon. They've already had the surgery on that. I hated to see that this morning. All right, Catch, let's go to the NBA. Buy or sell number 4. Cleveland would be your pick in the East today.
Buy. I think they have to be. I just think they have to. If you're picking anybody other than Cleveland and Oklahoma City right now, I feel like it's kind of a bold choice. Those 2 teams have been so good all year.
Yeah, there are so many cool little what ifs in the NBA for me right now. And one of them is, what if that Cleveland team gets a title? What if they get another title for that city, a non-LeBron, title for the Cavs? That would be wild. They've won 14 or 15 in a row now, and they've done that a couple times this year. That team is really, really good. Maybe keep an eye on them as the playoffs approach. And finally, Catch, speaking of basketball, but on the women's side, we're going to do a women's hoops hotter than. Juju Watkins, hotter than Angel Reese.
Hold on.
Do a college star against a budding pro star.
I gotta be honest,
both very stylish.
I did not know who Juju Watkins was.
Oh, my bad. Juju Watkins, the star at USC.
So I'm looking at Juju now.
And, of course, Angel Reese.
I'm going to go by.
Okay.
Angel's, her, vibe is, her vibe. And, I don't hate her vibe, but it doesn't, I think it takes away a little bit of her sex appeal for me.
Mm-hmm.
The long nails, the longer, eyelashes. You know what I mean? She's got, a thing.
Okay.
She's
just
a little
not your
taller
look.
than Juju, too. Juju's got as a guard. So I would say Juju's more my type.
Gotcha. There you go. Women's tournament bracket coming out, obviously, this weekend as well. Texas looking to be a 1 seed on the women's side, where USC UCLA, UConn, and South Carolina are in the bracket. going to be very important for Texas fans to watch. All right, Catch, there's my 5. What do you got?
Buy or sell number 1. Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. Wendy would approve.
Oh, wow. I'm going to say it's a sell. I'm going to say that's a sell. I think along the way, she's developed kind of one of those irrational hatreds for Rodgers. And I think in her mind, he's not Aaron Rodgers anymore. And they'd be getting a diminished version of him. So I'm going to sell. And I'll be honest with you, Catch, haven't discussed that guy with my wife as a Steelers fan.
It's a thing.
I will. I'll have the discussion, especially now that she's got DK Metcalf. She and I haven't even had a chance since I'm away from the house right now. We haven't talked about DK Metcalf. I got to make sure.
There's talk that he is choosing between the Giants and the Steelers.
Man, if I'm a Steeler fan, I would say give it a shot. I would say to give that a shot. But I'll have the discussion with my wife and I'll get back to you. Right now, I think it's a sell.
Buy or sell number 2. Texas as the the 4th number 1 seed in the women's tournament would almost certainly mean UConn is in their bracket as the 5th team. So, you start working those 2s the other direction. That ain't good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a buy. And I'd say that about anybody, that any 1 seed that would find themselves matched up against UConn, they're always a team you can't forget about. It's crazy I just said that out loud. But yeah, that'd be a little dangerous. Like I said, Catch, if I'm a Texas fan, I want to know where is South Carolina in the bracket, and then I want to know where the U's are. Where's USC? Where's UCLA? And where's UConn? Those are the things I need to know as a Texas fan, because I think those are the real danger spots.
There are 5 teams looking for a number 1 seed, really.
Yeah.
There's going to be 2 that just get paired up in the same region together.
Yeah.
It looks like that's going to be Texas and UConn.
And how wild is it that we could be looking at 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten? It could just be the 2 LA schools and South Carolina and Texas as your 4-1 seeds. You don't see that very often.
Nope. And I think USC and UCLA just want to be on opposite sides somewhere.
Dude, and all the rest of us just want to see them play each other.
Honestly, USC and UCLA should be the 1 and the 2 out west, and that should be settled once and for all in a regional final.
Yeah, agreed.
Buy or sell number 3. Texas beats Vandy today, and Trey Johnson lives to play another game in a Longhorn uni. By the way, tip-off for that game scheduled for 2:30 today. It follows South Carolina, Arkansas. Arkansas pounding South Carolina 47-30 in games. So Arkansas about to pick up win number 20 for them. They went 9-10 or 8-10 in conference play. So you feel like Pitino's done what they need to do. Texas is the 1 team, I think, in the SEC that really feels like has some real work to do.
All right, Texas fans, we're going to try some reverse psychology here. Sell, because I don't trust this team at all.
Damn.
Let's hope that I'm wrong and the fans get to go bah later on. But I don't trust this team. I don't trust this team to get through 40 minutes of anything. Where are you on this? You think they're finding this one today?
I don't know.
They're just it's just so mind-numbingly inconsistent. It's almost an insult to inconsistent.
Texas fans are just ready to
it needs to be done.
They're just ready to move on.
Yeah, it needs to be done. Yeah, absolutely.
Buy or sell number 4. You think the Xavier Worthy situation is over in the eyes of the NFL?
Buy, because I think they'll draw that line of were there charges? Were there charges filed? And if that answer is no, I think they will move on. Remind me, Catch, go back to who am I trying to Roethlisberger. When Roethlisberger had that story and no charges were filed, did they punish him?
Yes.
The NFL.
I think so.
Maybe he had to miss a little
bit.
bit.
They have punished guys before when charges haven't been filed.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm gonna have to walk that back a second. I'll sell. I'll sell and say it's not quite over. There's going to be like once business cranks up in the league, they will
They
take a
will
look at.
confirm that there is like an investigation
Yes,
and that
they're going to have to
was
take.
completed.
They're going to have to take a look because we are in a world where the Deshaun Watson thing does, Deshaun Watson and Justin Tucker and stuff like that. They're going to have to deal with the Justin Tucker thing maybe too, is that part, because that's a little different. That stuff has been actually filed and lawsuits are out there and stuff. But in this case, at least there's probably one more layer to it. So I'll sell that it's done.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. My Liverpool FC soccer team went down at the hands of PSG yesterday in the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
You are fascinated and surprised to hear that I am very well adjusted less than 24 hours after the fact. I graciously concede that PSG was the deserving team to come out of that two-legged tie, and I'm not bitter at all.
I'm pleasantly happy to hear that, because I know that soccer makes people crazy, and you are people, and so sometimes I know it makes you crazy. But I'm glad to hear that that level heads seem to have prevailed, and that you're going to be the better man here, and you're going to shake hands and say, well done.
Over the years, usually when Liverpool has gone out in the Champions League early, there have been times where it felt like the wrong thing occurred. PSG just played better than we did over two legs. Like, it's one of those I can't say we were robbed. Like, we played a really good. I think the best two teams in Europe played in the round of 16, and it went to penalties. Like that's how ultimately it was, how tight it was, and but they were the better team, I think, over 210 minutes. And I tip my cap to PSG. I didn't think it was going to go down that way, but I give them tons of credit for pulling it off. I didn't think they would.
I think those are good moments we can have as fans, Catch, when at the end of it, it's like, yeah, your team just wasn't quite good enough. Like, there's a certain World Series I won't talk about with the Rangers that still haunts me, but I don't worry about Tim Lincecum. Like, I don't worry about that one. They were better, right? As a Braves fan, there's some World Series I could tell you about that still bother me, but when the Yankees swept them in 99, that's not one of them. No.
And I felt like the first game we didn't play well, but I give them a ton of credit for making us not play well. But like yesterday, we were really good. It was the best high-level soccer match I've seen all year long. Like, the two best teams playing each other, and they played each other. And in the end, like, Liverpool didn't win, and sometimes that happens. And like, I'm actually very pleasantly surprised that the Liverpool players have also had a real healthy. Like, they're like, hey, pick your head up. We got a cup final on Sunday, and there's a title to go win, and like we just got to get back to work. And it's like, But I have to admit, like, form of devastation prior to that. Like, I always need an hour, man. I just need an hour. And what I don't need in the first hour, don't be a son of a bitch that like is going out of their way to taunt me. I'll bite back. But usually after an hour, I've processed.
Yeah.
I've at least taken a healthy step or two. And, it's easier to do when your team just wasn't better. Like, it's easier to, I think, accept the other team beat us because they were better than us, even if just over two games, and you don't think over 38 games it would be that way. Sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other team. I was really impressed by PSG. I actually am rooting for them now to win the whole thing. Like, they were so good. It's like, okay, you guys better do that to everybody else. Y'all better not show up in the next round and look like you guys don't belong on the same pitch as a great team, because, boy, they look fantastic.
Yeah. All right, Catch, since you're on the subject, we got a super chat about the subject. Jose 499 says, Catch, for one night, Donnarumma was better than A. Becker. How good was that PSG versus Liverpool game to you on a 1 to 10 scale, aside from the painful loss? As a game, Catch, 1 to 10, what was it?
It's probably like a 9. Neither team was clinical in scoring goals. I mean, Liverpool should have been up 2-0 10 minutes into that game. And then, but Mo Salah didn't finish. You got to be clinical. And Liverpool just wasn't clinical. So I wouldn't call it 10 because neither team was really clinical in front of goal. But my God, Chad, like we're 80 minutes into that game and players have been on the pitch for 80 minutes. And the levels of competition of the two teams challenging each other, it was just back and forth. It was like, oh my God, they weren't there. And then you're like, oh my God, thank God. And then it went the other way, and it was kind of the same thing. And I think PSG will walk away feeling like, man, okay, we get what Liverpool's about if we didn't see it in the first game. And PSG, man, played like the level of comp. It was a 10 in terms of like how hard they played against each other. It was a 9 overall because they just neither team truly played at a 10. I don't know that Donnarumma was better than Alisson last night. I mean, Liverpool, Alisson doesn't give up any goals, other than the one that essentially was an own goal. Like Konate tries to kick the ball away. He doesn't do a good job of it, and he literally left the ball a foot in front of the goal for a PSG player to kick it in. That was the only goal they gave up. I don't even know that Donnarumma was better in the penalties. You could say he was, but I don't know that means – I did not think Donnarumma was better than Alisson in the game overall. Like Alisson was great from a distribution standpoint. He didn't give up. I won't concede that. But Donnarumma was really good. I didn't come away from that game thinking that it wasn't like we played Thibaut Courtois in a Champions League final. He wasn't that good. We didn't put enough pressure on him. So, but like it was much better than the game before, for sure.
Look at that. Buy or sell from the soccer world created a soccer super chat and a little soccer comment from Catch too. Thank you for that, Jose. We appreciate it.
I don't enjoy talking about it though. Like I need another day. Like I'm good,
yeah,
but
I can tell.
I don't want to talk about it anymore today.
Okay, fair enough. Before we get out of here, one more quick reminder about those 10 concerts at Hayes City Store. We are a ways through it now. And we're coming up on, let's see, if today is that day, what do we got? Oh, a little Ian Moore for you tonight at Hayes City Store if you want to get out there. Now, my wife and daughter and I are ready to roll on Sunday out at LC Rocks. My wife's a big fan of LC Rocks. My daughter's a big fan of the queso, so that's why we're going. If you see me, say hello. If you see the woman rushing the stage when they pour some sugar on me, that's my wife. Say hello. Hayes City Store, TX.com. All shows are free. Get on out there for the 10 days of Hayes. Hard to believe. They're 10 years old out at Hayes City Store, but they're doing 10 free concerts. So check them out. Ian Moore tonight, the Derailers tomorrow. Very cool. And then they'll round it out with LC Rocks on Sunday night. All right, Catch. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for liking and subscribing and getting those notifications. Like it on the way out if you didn't like it on the way in. And thank you guys for getting us over 14 million views on the channel as a whole. We appreciate you. We could not do it without you. Remember, Football with Friends comes up at 6 tonight on The Outsiders at 8:30. It is we'll have that coaching discussion. Sark, 4th in the rankings with Bruce Feldman. We'll get into that discussion. Plus, we're challenging Chance Mock tonight in the Mock 5 Top 5. His 5 favorite Aggies of all time. Does Chance even know 5 Aggies he could mention that he would feel good enough about? We will throw that out.
I could do a top 5.
Okay. And then also, Bo Edge wants to talk to Doc Hastings. That'll happen at 9 o'clock. Bo has some questions for my dad based off of one of the weirdest reasons to want to talk to somebody, but it'll happen at 9 o'clock. So check that out. 9 in the morning is the old fashioned. Give me one real quick, Catch. Give me a favorite Aggie for you.
I mean, Coriat is the first name that popped into my mind. I mean,
okay.
I remember being in high school and just thinking he was a linebacker god.
Yeah.
Dat Wynn's got to be on the list somewhere.
That's fair.
Von Miller's probably on the list. Marty B's on the. I'm a Marty B guy.
Marty B. Marty B should be on everybody's list, I think. Yeah, that's
and then
pretty good.
let me think about it. I'll give you my buyer. It'll be in a buy or sell question tomorrow.
There you go. Fair
It'll
enough.
probably be these are my top 5 Aggies.
And
buy or sell. Yeah. At least one of my top 5 makes your top 5.
Okay. Like fair enough. We'll do that tomorrow. Thank you guys for jumping in. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back for a Thursday edition tomorrow at noon. We are House Divided. It's Orange Bloods Live.